Hello, good morning, friends. We are back. Today is 4th January 2022. Sorry for yesterday. I have not uploaded video due to urgent work in my office. So I apologize for the delay for yesterday newspaper reading and I I will try to complete at least 30 to 50 30 to 50 minutes at least on day-to-day basis to provide you content of the Hindu newspaper so that you can cover up your gap and you can update yourself, you can increase enhance your speaking as well as listening skills, and you can develop your mind also based on the opinions thoughts of others on the basis of facts. So without wasting our time, let's start. For the top news are practice your religion but do not indulge in hate speech. Venkaya, okay. Let women MPs testify before house panel on marriage age. Susmita, already ongoing news is okay. Amid crack down on protesters, Sudan PM Abdallah Hamdok resigns. Jensen Rabada and Olivier Ball out India for 202. In brief news, side news, Center seeks urgent listing of EWS quota case. The center on Monday pressed the Supreme Court to list on Tuesday the hearing of a case raising questions about the 8 lakh rupee income criterion for identifying EWS to provide them quota in jobs. Charge sheet filed in Lakhimpur Kheri case. Ajay Misra, son of Union Minister Ajay Misra, Ashish Misra, son of Union Minister Ajay Misra, was presented at the site of the Lakhimpur Kheri incident, according to the statements of witnesses. A government council sat on Monday as the SIT submitted a 5,000-page charge sheet in a local court. Sidhu promises a dole for women or homemakers. Days after AAP promised a monthly sum of 1,000 rupee to women in Punjab if voted to power. The ruling Congress on Monday promised 2,000 rupee a month to homemakers if the party wins state polls. Okay. About a man important and front page news is more than 40 lakh adolescents get first shot of COVID vaccine. Indigenously developed Covaxin administered second dose after 28 days. More than 40 lakh adolescents in the 15 to 17 age group received their first dose of COVID-19 vaccine on the first day of the vaccination drive for the cohort till 8 p.m. Union Home Minister, Union Health Minister Mansukh Mandavia tweeted on Monday, according to the COVID dashboard, more than 49 lakh in this age group have registered for the vaccine so far. The vaccination program carried out in consultation with schools is being held at hospitals and health centers. Covaxin in an indigenous COVID-19 vaccine will be administered in this age group in two doses with a gap of 28 days. Only Covaxin is approved for less than 18 years. The 18 plus years born in 2004 or before are eligible for all vaccine including Covishield. For 15 to 17 years born in 2005, 6, 7, they are eligible only for Covaxin. Validation in place in COVID. Vikas Seal, Additional Secretary Health Ministry, said in Delhi vaccination for more than 10 lakh adolescents began at 159 centers on Monday. Official sources said a Delhi government spokesperson said a total of 20,998 children were vaccinated on the first day till 6 p.m. More than 54,000 got their jab on the on the first day of the vaccination drive in Haryana. 9 dedicated centers. The Brahm, the Brihan Mumbai Municipal Corporation (BMC) has designated 9 vaccination centers where students can either walk in or pre-register online. The BMC aims to vaccinate 9 lakh students in this drive, which was virtually launched by Maharashtra Tourism and Environment Minister Aditya Thackeray. A large number of students from various civic schools arrived at the Jumbo Center, and the Bandakulla complex to get vaccinated. In Pune, the vaccination for adolescents commenced at 40 centers. Suryakant Devkar, Chief Immunization Officer, Pune Municipal Corporation, said at several centers teenagers were offered followers, pants, and masks after vaccination. India recorded 33,000 cases. India recorded more than 33,000 new COVID-19 cases in the 24 hours till 8 a.m. on Monday. The number of deaths increased by 123, taking the total to 482,000. Authorities said that even as the cases have started to rise rapidly in the country, hospitalization have not gone up. Okay. China constructing bridge on the Pangong Lake in Ladakh. It will bring down time to move troops and equipment. China is constructing a bridge in eastern Ladakh connecting the north and south banks of Pangong TSO Lake, which will significantly bring down the time for the People's Liberation Army PLA to move troops and equipment between the two sectors. Two official sources independently confirmed on Monday. On the north bank, there is a PLA garrison at Kurnak Fort and on the south bank at Moldo, and the distance between the two is around 200 kilometers. The new bridge between the close set points on two banks, which is around 500 meters, will bring down the movement time between the two sectors from around 12 hours to 3 or 4 hours. One of the sources said the bridge is located around 25 kilometers ahead of the line of actual control. LAC, the source stated, the construction had been going on for some time and it would reduce the overall distance by 140 to 150 kilometers, the other source said. Earlier, the PLA had to take a roundabout crossing the Rudok country, but now the bridge would provide a direct access. The first source said, adding that the biggest advantage with the new bridge was intersector movement. As the time would come down significantly, they need to build piers for a bridge which has been underway. The source stated the bridge is in China's territory and the Indian Army which would have to now factor this in its operational plans. The source noted India holds one third of the 135-kilometer long boom Boomerang shaped lake located at an altitude of over 14,000 feet. The lake, a glacial mat, has mountain spurs of the Chanmo range jutting down referred to as fingers. The north bank, which has much higher difference in perception of the LAC than the south bank, was the initial site of the glaciage in the early May 2020. While tensions on the south bank flared up later in August, the Indian Army got tactical advantage over the PLA on the south bank in August and by occupying several peaks lying vacant since 1962, gaining a dominating view of the Moldo area. On the north bank too, the Indian troops set up posts facing PLA positions on the ridge lines of Finger 4. Okay. Devas shareholders seized over $30 million of AAI assets. Devas shareholders on Monday said they said this had seized more than $30 million of Airport Authority of India AI money held by the International Air Transport Association (IATA). International Air Transport Association following an order from a Canadian court in connection with the arbitration award the telecommunication firm had won against the Indian government. The move also impact Air India. Pepa's shareholders have been granted the right to garnish property belonging to Airports Authority of India held by the International Air Transport Association in Montreal. Montreal. These actions represent the first fruits of a globally focused effort to attach assets of the Indian government to satisfy the Devas multimedia awards. A Devas spokesperson said, Air India being one of the biggest users of AAI, which highly impacted. The spokesperson added the enforcement strategy requires IATA to garnish air navigation charges, aerodrome charges, among others, held by it on behalf of the AAI, either as either at its head office in Montreal or at any of its branches worldwide. The commercial division of the Quebec Superior Court accepted to designate a judge on an urgent basis to hear the applications to quiz and stay the seizures. Garnishing the hearing will take place on January 4, as senior officer at the Union Finance Ministry said. Engineering student detained in app case. Okay, the cyber cell of the Mumbai police detained an engineering student in Bangalore on Monday evening in connection with the controversial bully by app. He is reported to be one of the four followers of the app. The student is being brought to Mumbai and is expected to be arrested soon, said an officer of the cyber cell. No other details were disclosed till the time of going to print. The Delhi police on Monday said they had written to hosting platform GitHub seeking information on accounts which posted photos of Muslim women on the app where they were being auctioned. Officers, however, said no breakthrough had been achieved in identifying any suspects. Sources said the police have also written to Twitter seeking information about the account which first tweeted about the app. In the case of a similar app, Solid Days in August, the police had said a notice was issued to GitHub to share the IP address from where the footage of Muslim women were shared, but the company asked the police to approach it through the Mumbai legal assistance to redeem. Earlier, an FIR was lodged in Delhi under IPC section 354 sexual harassment and punishment for sexual harassment 509 Watts Cashier or act intended to outrage modesty of a woman and 153A promoting enmity between different groups on grounds of religion, race, place of birth. It is in at the cybercrime police station of Southeast District based on a complaint filed by a woman. Okay. So we have covered first page. Without wasting time, let's cover some important new chatting. A man booked for extorting money from rape accused. Okay, youngsters are rearing to go after first dose vaccination boost. 20,998 beneficiaries on first day of inoculation drive for the 15 to 17 age group. Omicron variant found in 81% of positive sample. Minister asked people to follow norms. Three-step friend to death overtones held in Gujarat. Okay. Two bills tabled in Delhi Assembly. Government should prioritize matters. Okay. Newly opened park a hit with visitors. It houses replicas of monuments. Full of advertisement. Today newspaper is full of advertisements. SP continues to attract Brahmin leaders. Latest entrant is former BSP MP Rakesh Pandey, father of party sitting MP Ritesh Pandey. Okay. HC gives every WhatsApp more time to reply. Okay. Don't indulge in hate speech, Venkaya. We have seen on top most newspaper of 2 days, The Hindu. Though, okay, secularism is in every Indian's blood. Every person has right to practice and preach his or her faith. MP local polls essay to hear centers play on January 7 as a Congress leader interred at CMAT. Please assaulted actor rights to kill ASEAN. Telangana BJP chief sent to 14-day judicial custody. MP booked for violating prohibitory orders. Minister Congress MP nearly come to blows on state tension at event attended by Bombay ED Enforcement Directorate attaches 26 crore rupee assets in fraud case probe based on FIR by CBI against DPIL's others. NIA arrested woman for Mangalore in terror case. Mariam was suspected to be in touch with IS cadre amid spike in COVID-19 cases. Bengal civic polls as per schedule. Okay, Institute of Mathematical Sciences is 60. From a small beginning, it has grown to 52 faculty members, 125 PhD students. ISRO getting up for multiple missions in year 2022. KC1 says three space science missions are in the pipeline. Editorial. Okay. Without wasting time, let's start our editorial. Okay, widening the safety net. The need to test other vaccines as an additional dose in adults is overwhelming. Nearly a year after the rollout of COVID-19 vaccines for the healthcare workers and the primary vaccination schedule to cover 75 million teenagers aged 15 to 17 years began across the country on January 3. Nearly 0.4 million children received the first dose on the first day, with all adults aged 18 years and above already being covered. The inclusion of teenagers has reduce the eligibility gap age group to 15 years. The decision to vaccinate teenagers, which was announced by Prime Minister Narendra Modi on December 25 last year, was based on the emergence of the highly transmissive Omicron variant. It's spread to many countries in about a month after it was designated as a variant of concern. The global case surge and the trend in many developed countries of vaccinating adolescents and children were while there is no clear consensus on whether healthy teenagers have above 15 should be vaccinated, particularly at your severe disease and deaths in this age group are relatively low when infected by the virus, and a significant percentage of teenagers and children have been already infected, as indicated by a few sero salvage vaccination doses increase the level of protection. Unlike in the case of adults who were vaccinated with one of the two vaccines, Covishield and or Covaxin, teenagers will be administered only Covaxin. It was found to be safe and immunogenic in teenagers during a phase 2-3 of the clinical trial. Only 175 adolescents aged 12 to 18 years were studied. The data of the trial yet to be peer reviewed were posted on a prep on a preprint server on December 29. As in the case of adults, the eligibility teenagers will receive the second dose 20 days after the first. Besides providing teenagers with the primary vaccine, healthcare and frontline workers and those above 60 years with comorbidities will be provided with a precaution dose. Providing Covaxin as a precaution dose to all the people who have received the same vaccine as part of the primary vaccination schedule, which is scientifically called as homologous vaccine booster, will be the best approach, at least till there is evidence on using different vaccine as a booster shot. Though Covaxin accounts for only around 10% of all doses administered till date, the scientific bodies need to factor in vaccine availability too. This becomes particularly important as only Covaxin is used for vaccinating teenagers and its production is very limited in comparison to Covishield. The compulsion to test other vaccine that can be used in place of Covaxin as an additional dose in adults with therefore overwhelming. The approach of two additional vaccines which are manufactured using different vaccine platforms will further lessen the reliance on the Covaxin for primary vaccination of adults, thus ensuring that the vaccination program for teenagers does not suffer from shortages midway. Okay. Okay, that's covered second news. Safety at all cost. Government should ensure implementation of safety protocols in the fireworks industry. The death of four workers on New Year's Day in a blast at the fireworks unit in Kalathur village of Virudhunagar district, the hub of the firecracker sector in Tamil Nadu, reiterates the need for relentless vigil to enforce safety protocols in an industry that deals with hazardous processes. The blast was said to have been triggered by friction caused by the mishandling of chemicals. Apparently, the workers had come to the unit for a puja to Assur in 2022. Even though the authorities have suspended the unit's license and filed cases under the Indian Penal Code and Indian Explosive Substances Act, they have not cited violations such as the license holder leasing out the units to others and manufacturing products unauthorizedly. Over the years, the district has seen numerous blasts, and successive state governments had formed at times committees to study the factors that led to the blast. There have been improvement in the way the firecrackers cracker industry has been functioning. For example, the extent of child labor has reduced considerably, but with regard to adherence to and monitoring of safety protocols, the track record leaves much to be desired. There has to be a paradigm shift in the manner an event such as the Kalathur blast is viewed. Generally, any blast is called an accident, but such usage unwittingly tends to gloss over the role of those who are responsible for the implementation and the enforcement of safety protocols. There can be no compromise on this count. At the same time, the contribution of the firecrackers industry to the country's economy, especially that of Tamil Nadu, has to be acknowledged. The sector employs 8 lakh people directly and indirectly in a backward region of the state with no assured irrigation. However, this does not absolve the industry of the responsibility to the life and health of the workers and the larger sections of society. In an investigation of the event, the authorities concerned should seriously consider translating into action some of the suggestions made by an eight-member committee constituted by the National Green Tribunal after a blast in the district that killed over 20 people in February 2021, headed by former judge of the Punjab and Haryana and and Madras High Court's K. Kannan. The panel had suggested that the Explosives Act be amended to make punishments more stringent than now, employing only certified persons for operations including mixing, filing of chemicals, and making of color palettes, and using drones for surveillance of various units. There is no depth of the idea to improve the working of the industry, but what is required is that the authorities, both at the levels of central and state governments, should ensure the enforcement of safety protocols. Okay. Without wasting time, let's cover letters to the editor. Income and quota. It is difficult to swallow the government's argument in favor of the income limit set by it, given the fact that it had not made any such rational public while drafting the law. Page 1, 8 lakh rupee income reasonable caps for EWS quota center tells SC January 3. Consequently, the regions preferred by the government committee seen more like a post facto rationalization. As per the data available in the public domain, almost 80% of households in India earn an annual income of less than 8 lakh rupee. Income tax data also shows that the proportion of taxpayers earning more than this limit also comes to around 20%. Both these facts imply that this limit includes almost four-fifths of the households and excludes merely the highest earners. Such a broad inclusion in the name of the economically weaker sections negates the alleged objective of economic justice, and on the oversight in imposing any such income limit at the national level also ignores the wide disparity in incomes which exist across states. Such bad legislation adds to the litigation pile up in courts. Amity is key. Pakistan and security, do they really go together? Pakistan is a state that is in the vice-like grip of its military and follows the dictates of fundamentalists and radicals. Perennial hostility towards India has not helped Pakistan in any way. In the absence of a tall leader with vision, Pakistan is being pulled on all sides. More like a national security police policy committee needs to be given importance. Assembly polls. It is a matter of grave concern that the Election Commission intends holding polls to the five state assemblies in the wake of rising COVID-19 and cases almost pandemic, quickly disturbing as the attitude of the political party in their greed for power adding fuel to the fire as most citizens becoming complacent. The heavens will not fall if the elections are deferred. We cannot forget the bitter experience of the second wave. Mask protocol. Despite warning of a third wave, crowding continuation masks are being worn without covering the nose and mouth. While a vaccine might help reduce the effects of the infect of an infection, only a good mask worn correctly can help cut virus transmission. The blame lies in poor implementation of and compliance with COVID-19 protocols. Okay. Without wasting time, let's cover this article also. India's rights record. America's blinkered vision. Washington diplomatic embrace is providing New Delhi a certain immunity from international criticism. Recent Indian foreign policy has a checkered record. The vacillation over the Taliban resuming control in Afghanistan being one instance, but it cannot be denied. The Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been remarkably successful in maintaining cordial Indian relations with Washington under United States President Joe Biden, despite overt wooing of former President Donald Trump. Accommodating view. India is considered a critical ally by the United States, the only designated major defense partner, and the ambassador designated to India, Rick Garcetti, told the Senate, few nations are more vital to the future of American security and prosperity than India. In Delhi last October, U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Wendy Sherman said of India's purchase of Russian military equipment, we have been quite public about any country that decides to use S-400. We think that it is dangerous and not in anybody's security interest, but our authority didn't think it necessary to rebuke her for flagrant discourtesy on Indian soil. For what American Defense Minister Lloyd James Austin III called shared values, Washington takes an accommodating view of widespread and downgrades in indices considered credible in assessing democratic norms and human rights. Like Israel, India find that Washington's embrace provides a certain immunity from international criticism. The US State Department's country report on human rights practices itself last March recorded significant human rights issues in India, including extrajudicial killings, torture, arbitrary arrest, and detention, violence against minorities, unjustified harassment of journalists, and censorship and blocking of websites. India is rated poorly by the US-based Freedom House, which called it partially free. Sweden's Freedom Institute, which dubbed it an electoral autocracy, the Economist Democracy Index, and the Stockholm Institute for Democracy, which India had helped to stabilize a year ago. India ranked 142 in the World Press Freedom Index of Reporters Without Borders. The US Commission on International Religious Freedom has for successive years recommended that India be listed on a country of particular concern due to its treatment of Muslims and Christians, and India is ranked in the Open Doors World Which list for extreme Christian precaution uh, persecution below Syria, Iraq, and Saudi Arabia. The US government has ignored all these findings to the dismay of non-governmental organizations, NGOs, and activists due to Narendra Modi positioning India as an indispensable partner, and his government has no sympathy for NGOs, portraying their conclusions as biased and uninformed. The world India diplomacy does not proceed according to ethical standards, not as the global media. Six dying in a gust of wind in Australia and six in an illusion warehouse collapse make headlines while reports said that every 25 minutes on India woman commits suicide, 48% dying in a volcanic eruption in Java and 208 in a typhoon in Philippines are not noteworthy, nor is the current heroic popularity demand in Sudan for a democratic government. In past times, third world leaders in countries such as India, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Nigeria tried to create a rival media platform and Qatar, China, Russia, and started 24 hours news channels, but cannot match the resources and reach of the entrenched white dominating English medium news ecosystem, which includes soft power assets such as music, film, and culture. Hence, Santa Intelligence Agency is portrayed as all-knowing despite its abject failures in the way of big invasion, Iraq's nuclear weapons, and the Afghan army's capabilities. World News is curated by a handful of Western capitals. The readouts being for the domestic audience, which can enjoy the US and its allies for our fulminating against opponents who meekly submit to the diatribes, threats of massive consequences, and severe economic cost against Russia by G7 countries and the European Union are bluntly announced without reference to that what why Russia to what might by Russia's concern for its own security. A boycott of the Winter Olympic in China by irrelevant Western officials is heralded, but no boycott is threatened of the Football World Cup at Qatar. An absolute monarchy where there are scant civil and political rights. Workers' rights are negligible, and homosexuality is deemed illegal. The West instrument of choice for penalizing political adversaries in this is this and unilateral sections of dubious legality in international law. No audit has been taken for the imminent suffering these sections inflict on innocent civilians. The U.S. Treasury lists 36 groups of multiple sections, the latest of which is typically insensitive measures against seven seven Pancleatises, including the police chief justice before the 50th anniversary of the nation liberation from American ally Pakistan on the US for the world's oldest democracy to arbitrary on fundamental rights of others. It's ironic for a country where in 12 months ending March 2021 its police murdered 37 African American people per million against 15 per million votes, while when African Americans comprise only 13% of the population. The Summit for Democracy conference hosted by US President Joe Biden was predictably confused about its participants because not every democracy is liberal and not every society considered liberal is fully democratic. Meaningful summits should be global in attendance and concentrate on pressing problems such as inequality, climate change, and arms control on Earth and in space. Okay. Mhm. Without wasting time, let's complete uh, this this article also. A sobering reminder to the powers that be. The present master of the nation's destiny must remember the solemn assurance that tallest our leader made in 2003. It was September 2003, and a leading English daily of India was celebrating its 125th anniversary in Chennai, inaugurating the grand event. The Prime Minister of the day, the late Atal Bihari Vajpayee, said, in spite of the unfortunate aberrations whose recurrence must be prevented, India will always remain an open, inclusive, and tolerant nation with the freedom of faith guaranteed to to all, not only by the statute book but also by the living traditions of this ancient civilization. I later his assurance he was referring to some ghastly incidents of violence against the two largest minority in the country witnessed during those days in various regions. The gentle head of the government endowed with the exemplary political wisdom was assuring the nation with confidence that those were just aberrations not to last long and that the country would soon return to its age-old traditions of pluralism and religious tolerance. Vajpayee's party had lost at the election next year, but after a gap of full decade, returned to power with a bang. Would anyone among the present matters of the nation destiny remember the solemn assurance their tallest our leader had graciously extended to the nation? Vajpayee didn't live long enough to witness the living traditions of the ancient civilization being thrown into the dustbin of history. Unfortunately, his said demise didn't act as a sobering reminder to the power that before uh, the need to translate his pious hope into the ground reality of the day. In retrospect, Vajpayee wanted the country to religiously continue treading the path it had chosen for itself while throwing away the yoke of colonial rule in 1947. In the year following the advent of independence in India, the United Nations had proclaimed a Universal Declaration of Human Rights, affirming in its preamble that all members of the world body that had been set up to strive for peace across the globe had pledged themselves to the promotion and the observance of all the ideas enshrined in that so-called Mega Carta of Humanity. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights had asserted at the outset that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with the region and conscience and should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood. In the coming years, its implication and the demands were spelled out in the many minutest details in the two international human rights covenants of 1966, later suffused with several follow-up instruments like the Declaration on the Elimination of All Forms of Intolerance of Discrimination based on religion or belief 1981, and the Declaration on the Rights of Minorities 1992, a masterpiece of wisdom. When the celebrated Universal Declaration of Human Rights was proclaimed by the United Nations, the newly freed India was in the midst of writing its constitution for the future. Its noble architects, all highly enlightened leaders of the day, infused the letter and the spirit of that masterpiece of human wisdom into its preamble, under which the people of India solely resolved to secure to all its citizens justice, equality, and the liberty of all kinds, and to promote among them all fraternity, assurance, the dignity of individuals, and the unity of the nation. The details of these prefatory pledges were elaborated upon and fortified in Part 3 of the Constitution of People's Fundamental Rights. Before too long, it was realized by experience that there was a pressing need to alert the people of the country, both the rulers and the ruled, also to their constitutional duties to the nation and the society. Part IVA was then added to spell out citizens' fundamental duties, joint and several. The foremost among these scarred obligations were and remain to abide by the constitution and respect its ideal and institution and to promote harmony and the spirit of common brotherhood amongst all the people of India, transcending religions, linguistic and regional or sectional diversities. Now, so many years after the beginning of the constitution era, many deeply patriotic citizens of the country see the prevailing ground situation as an antithesis of the constitution antithesis of the constitution. They have begun wondering if that magnificent charter of the government enacted, adopted, and given to ourselves 2 years after independence was just an interim constitution to be replaced in the coming years with a brand new unwritten one drawn on diametrically opposite lines. Have we they are asking really decided to completely abandon our old commitments and allegiance to the international human rights instruments and to kick out our constitutional pages to preserve religious pluralism and maintain the citizens dignity, equality, and fraternity? No, inoperative IPC long before the advent of independence, India had enacted and given to all its inhabitants an Indian Penal Code with a full-fledged chapter on the offences relating to religion, laying down penalties for outraging religious feelings, insulting religion or beliefs, disturbing religious assemblies, wounding religious feelings, and in other nefarious activities of the sort. Why are, one may ask, these provisions of the code lying today operative while many people are openly flouting them in broad daylight? Televisions and newspapers regularly reports how some of them masquerading as saints keep throwing dirt on the founder of the second largest religion of the contemporary world, seen by its over 2 billion followers across the globe, as the most highly reserved, highly revered figure next only to God. Does not all this attract application of the IPC offense of the outraging religious feelings, and when some of them across the limits to incite people to commit atrocities against and even mass killing of the second largest group among the nation's citizenry? Is their audacity not covered by the provision of the our penal code or by any other law of the country? The election law of India laid down in the Representation of the People Act of 1955 51 declares promoting or attempting to promote feeling of enmity or hatred on the grounds of religion activity between different classes of citizens in connection with election to be a punishable offense. Section 125 referring to it, and eminent apex court judge of the past, the late VK Krishna Iyer, had once observed, it is a matter of profound regret that political communalism is foliating and flourishing largely because partisan politicians have not the will, professions apart, to give up the chase for power through politicizing communal identity. It is indeed saddening that while the election law with its aforementioned panel provisions remains inactive, this lament of a deeply concerned jurist judges seems to have become a permanent feature of the political discourse across the country. Golden thread of unity, the top court of the nation, has in fact been constantly spelling out for us from the very beginning the meaning and the application of the roadmap the constitution of the country had laid for us soon after independence. In the case of Ahmedabad and the state of Gujarat is 1974, St. Jeevar College versus the state of Gujarat 1974. A large bench of the court had observed India is the second most populous country of the world. The people inhabiting this vast land profess different religions and speak different languages. It is Moisic. Okay, music of different religions, language, and cultures. Each of them has made a mark on Indian polity, and India today represents the synthesis of them all. Despite the diversity of religion and languages, though there runs through the fabric of the nation the golden thread of a basic and made unity. 20 years later, in the cause Sally Bridge captioned SR Bombay versus Union of India 1994, and even larger bench of in court had proclaimed that the constitution provisions prohibited the establishment of a theocratic state and prevent the state from either identifying itself with or otherwise favoring any particular religion. And this secularism is more than a passive attitude of religious tolerance. It is a positive concept of equal treatment of all religions. Fading light. Announcing the tragic demise of the father of the nation on January 13, 1948, Jawaharlal Nehru had said, "The light has gone out of our lives. That light will be seen in the country, and the world will see it for the light represented so may think more than the immediate present. It represents the living, the eternal truths, reminding us of the right path, drawing us from error, taking the ancient country to freedom. On that sad day, year after year, since then, sirens had been blaring out in government offices and education institutions, urging us to remember the teachings of that extraordinary leader who had played the key role in our struggle for independence. But do we still have the will and the determination to let India remain what the father of nation wanted it to be then and always in future? Do we remember our first prime minister's optimism with the Mahatma much light will be seen, and do we care for the Solomon assurance given to the nation by another great prime minister of the country, Atal Bihari Vajpayee, in 2003, that India will always remain an open, inclusive, and tolerant nation? Are there any answers? Are there any answers? We have covered editorial page also, first page, and some important news also. Let's see some important headings. The defaming silence of scientists citing in governance. I think that is enough. I am closing today's session. We will meet tomorrow. Thank you for watching this video. Please like this video, subscribe this channel, and share this channel as much as possible. So we will meet tomorrow. Thank you. Have a nice day. Thank you.